云南是全国植物种类最多的省份，热带、亚热带、温带、寒温带植物类型都有分布。在全国3万种高等植物中，云南占60%以上。整个云贵高原占据优势的是常绿阔叶林。
高大的樟树、石栗、木莲等乔木树种，杜鹃花、后皮香等较高大的灌木，以及草本植物中的蕨类、
百合科或天南星等植被，这些同属于常绿阔叶林的植物，构成了云贵高原四季常青、碧水长流的最核心要素。山有多高，水有多长。这些丰沛的水源来自常绿阔叶林的涵养。5月，在哀牢山深处，数十种蝴蝶在孕育自己的宝宝。为了躲避天敌，它们把自己伪装成环境的颜色。30天后，数以亿计的蝴蝶破茧成蝶，满山遍野。
尊敬的各位来宾、女士们、先生们，让我们以热烈的掌声欢迎中华人民共和国国务院副总理韩正阁下入场。Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's propose the warmest applause to the attendance of His Excellency Mr. Han Zheng, Vice Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China.有请生物多样。
Now let's invite COP15 President, Minister of Ecology and Environment of China, His Excellency Mr. Huang Renqiu, to preside over the meeting. Your Excellencies, Heads of State, Your Excellencies, Heads of International Organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good afternoon. It gives me great honor to invite you to the high-level segment of the Biodiversity Conference, where we may exchange views on new strategies of global biodiversity governance and launch a new journey in this regard. According to the agenda, the high-level segment consists of Leaders Summit and Ministerial Conference. Now we are holding the Leaders Summit with the aim of leveraging the highest political commitment and biggest political will of state leaders. It is important to make full use of COP15, an important opportunity for reversing biodiversity loss, to further enhance dialogue, build consensus, and strengthen cooperation, so as to take forward global biodiversity governance to a new high. First, let's invite Vice Premier of the host country of COP15, the People's Republic of China, His Excellency Mr. Han Zheng, to make remarks.
Distinguished heads of state and government, distinguished representatives of international organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to join all of you for the Leaders Summit of Convention on Biological Diversity COP15. President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech via video. This shows China's commitment to this meeting. On this occasion, on behalf of the Chinese government, I wish to extend a warm welcome and best regards to all the distinguished guests. The Earth is our common home, and biodiversity is the lifeline and foundation of a community of all life on Earth. Since the signing and implementation of the CBD, countries have worked together and made encouraging progress in global biodiversity protection. The loss of forest resources in some regions have slowed down, and a growing number of areas with key biodiversity significance have been put under protection. That said, the worsening of the biodiversity situation is yet to be contained. Globally, 41% of amphibians, 26% of mammals, and 14% of birds are threatened with extinction. It is our responsibility to take actions, vigorously promote ecological conservation and restoration, keep enhancing the resilience of the ecosystem, and protect our only home of planet Earth. Guided by Xi Jinping thought on ecological civilization, China follows a path of green, low-carbon, and sustainable development. We have carried out holistic conservation and systematic governance of mountains, rivers, forests, farmlands, lakes, grasslands, and deserts, set up the pioneering system of ecological protection red lines, established a protected area system with national parks as the mainstay, and put 19% of terrestrial ecosystems and 85% of key wild animal species under effective protection. As the world's largest developing country, China pursues modernization in a way that features harmonious coexistence between man and nature. China actively takes on international obligations that fit its level of development and makes its due contribution to global biodiversity governance. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently at a critical stage in strengthening biodiversity protection and advancing global environmental governance. The post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework that is being negotiated, just like the UN Agenda for Sustainable Development and the UN Decade Ecosystem Restoration Plan, are important documents for the future. We look forward to the efforts of all parties during this conference to demonstrate the utmost political resolution, rise to the tremendous challenge in biodiversity, jointly launch a new process in global biodiversity governance, and contribute wisdom and strength to building a community of all life on Earth. With that, I wish the COP15 Leaders Summit a full success. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Premier Han Zheng, for your splendid remarks. Next, I'm honored to invite His Excellency Mr. Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, to make the keynote speech.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to meet you virtually in Kunming and jointly attend the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. On behalf of the government and people of China, as well as in my own name, I wish to extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished guests. As the Chinese saying goes, all beings flourish when they live in harmony and receive nourishment from nature. Biodiversity makes Earth full of vigor and vitality and lays the foundation for human survival and development. Protecting biodiversity helps protect Earth, our common homeland, and contributes to humanity's sustainable development. The Kunming Conference, under the theme of Ecological Civilization, Building a Shared Future for All Life on Earth, has great significance. It will work for the conclusion of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework and identify targets and pathways for global biodiversity protection in the future. In this context, the international community must enhance cooperation, build consensus, and pool strength to build a community of all life on Earth. Man and nature need to coexist in harmony. When we take care to protect nature, nature rewards us generously. When we exploit nature ruthlessly, it punishes us without mercy. We need to have deep reverence for nature, respect nature, follow nature's laws, and protect nature, so as to build a homeland of harmonious coexistence between man and nature. Green mountains are gold mountains and silver mountains. A sound ecology and environment is not just a natural asset, but also an economic asset, and it affects the potential and momentum of economic and social development. We need to speed up efforts to foster a green way of development and secure a win-win of economic growth and environmental protection, so as to build a homeland of coordinated advancement of economy and the environment. The COVID-19 pandemic has cast a shadow over global development and compounded challenges to the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Faced with the dual tasks of economic recovery and environmental protection, developing countries need help and support all the more. We need to strengthen solidarity to overcome difficulties and let people across countries benefit more and in a fairer way from development outcomes and a sound environment, so as to build a homeland of common development of all countries. We are living in an era both fraught with challenges and full of hopes. As long as we press ahead with perseverance, a bright future will beckon. For the sake of our common future, we need to join hands and start a new journey of high-quality development for humanity. First, we shall take the development of ecological civilization as our guide to coordinate the relationship between man and nature. We need to solve the problems brought by industrial civilization, keep human activities within the limits of the ecology and environment, and carry out holistic conservation and systematic governance of mountains, rivers, forests, farmlands, lakes, grasslands, and deserts. Second, we shall let green transition drive our efforts to facilitate global sustainable development. We need to build a green, low-carbon, and circular economic system, translate ecological strengths into development strengths, and bring out the great benefit that green mountains and clear waters can offer. We also need to step up green international cooperation and share the fruits of green development among all countries. Third, we shall concentrate on bettering people's well-being to promote social equity and justice. We need to keep in mind the people's aspiration for a better life, pursue win-win results in environmental protection, economic development, job creation, poverty alleviation, and other endeavors, and increase the sense of fulfillment, happiness, and security of people in all countries. Fourth, we shall take international law as the basis to uphold a fair and equitable international governance system. We need to practice true multilateralism and effectively honor and implement international rules, which are not to be exploited or discarded at one's own will. The new environmental protection targets we set need to be ambitious on the one hand and pragmatic and balanced on the other, so as to make the global environmental governance system fairer and more equitable. Colleagues, China has made remarkable progress in building an ecological civilization. The recent story of the northward travel and return of a group of elephants in Yunnan province in southwestern China shows the vivid results of our endeavor to protect wild animals. China will continue to advance ecological progress, stay committed to implementing the new development philosophy, emphasizing innovative, coordinated, green, and open development for all, and build a beautiful China. On this occasion, I wish to announce China's initiative to establish a Kunming Biodiversity Fund and take the lead by investing 1.5 billion RMB yuan to support biodiversity protection in developing countries. China also calls for and welcomes contributions from other parties to the fund. To strengthen biodiversity protection, China is moving faster to establish a protected area system with national parks as the mainstay. Over time, areas with the greatest importance to the natural ecosystem and with the most unique natural landscapes, the most valuable natural heritage, and the greatest biodiversity reserve will be included in the national park system. China has officially designated its first group of national parks that includes the Three River Source National Park, the Giant Panda National Park, the Northeast China Tiger and Leopard National Park, the Hainan Tropical Forest National Park, and the Wuyishan National Park. The protected land area is 230,000 square kilometers, and they cover nearly 30% of the key terrestrial wildlife species found in China. In the meantime, acting by the principle of striking a balance between on-site and translocation conservation, China has started building a system of national botanical gardens in places like Beijing and Guangzhou. To achieve its carbon peak and neutrality targets, China will release implementation plans for peaking carbon dioxide emissions in key areas and sectors, as well as a series of supporting measures, and will put in place a 1+N policy framework for carbon peak and carbon neutrality. China will continue to readjust its industrial structure and energy mix, vigorously develop renewable energy, and make faster progress in planning and developing large wind power and photovoltaic bases in sandy areas, rocky areas, and deserts. The first phase of projects with an installed capacity of approximately 100 million kilowatts have recently started construction in a smooth fashion. Colleagues, if we humanity do not fail nature, nature will not fail us. Ecological civilization represents the development trend of human civilization. Let us join hands, follow the philosophy of ecological civilization, and shoulder our responsibility for future generations. Let us make joint efforts to build a community of all life on Earth and a clean and beautiful world for us all.
习近平主席的
Thank you, President Xi Jinping, for your keynote speech. Now let's invite President of the Russian Federation, His Excellency Vladimir Putin, to make remarks. Please put on the headset.
Председатель Xi Jinping, уважаемый господин Гутеррес.
President Xi Jinping, Your Excellency Mr. Guterres, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to address the participants in the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, adopted nearly 30 years ago. The Convention has been and continues to be the key universal international legal instrument that brings together states and multilateral organizations in the struggle for the conservation of nature and sustainable use of our planet's resources. These concerns are now more relevant than ever, as we see that human activity and the explosive development of technology, industry, and agriculture often have a negative impact on the environment and climate. In this context, I would like to express my appreciation to our Chinese friends and to President Xi Jinping personally for supporting efforts to enhance international cooperation on environmental matters. For our part, we are committed to working jointly with all countries concerned to preserve our common habitat. We are also grateful to our Chinese colleagues and the Secretariat of the Convention for organizing this meeting of the conference under the theme Ecological Civilization, Building a Shared Future for All Life on Earth. This conference offers a good opportunity to share ideas on how to ensure, to the greatest extent possible, harmonious coexistence between human beings and nature, to most effectively mobilize global efforts for preserving biodiversity, ensuring sustainable use of natural resources, and defining goals and modalities for international cooperation in these areas. In this respect, I would like to mention that Russia is endowed with unique natural wealth, which is essential for the Earth's life support processes. Biodiversity conservation is an absolute priority for us, the one we try to address in a responsible, consistent, and systemic way. State institutions, businesses, and civil society are partners in this work. Our country is implementing a comprehensive strategy for sustainable development, focusing on the environmental agenda, the protection and restoration of rare and endangered animals and plants, and the further strengthening of the system of specially protected natural areas. At the federal level alone, there are 109 nature reservations, 64 national parks, and 62 nature reserves. In total, counting regional and local specially protected natural areas and other forms of protection, then over 25% of Russia's landmass is under the protection of environmental legislation now. Believe me, this is an immense area. At the same time, we plan to create at least 23 new specially protected natural areas by 2024. The protection of rare fauna and flora species is guaranteed in our country at the state level. The measures being taken generate tangible results. Thus, the number of Persian and Amur leopards, snow leopards, tigers, polar bears, bisons, birds of the falcon family, and of course the Siberian tigers has increased. We will continue all these efforts, including in coordination with our foreign partners. In this context, I would like to draw attention to the fact that we are planning to hold the second International Forum on Tiger Population Conservation in September 2022. The meeting will take place on the margins of the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok. We are counting on the participation of representatives from all the countries providing habitat for these rare predators. I also cannot help but note that thanks to the enormous absorption capacity of Russia's forests, our country makes a significant contribution to solving global environmental and climate problems and contributes to the real conservation of biodiversity. Let me remind you that Russia accounts for 20% of the world's forest resources. We will improve the quality of forest management, including through additional measures to combat fires of natural origin and ensure forest restoration. This very conference is a good illustration that objectives of nature conservation cannot be successfully addressed by any country individually. This is a common task for all states, for all humankind, without exaggeration. We fully support the idea of achieving closer international cooperation on all urgent issues of protecting flora and fauna as well as air and water resources. Such interaction should build on universally recognized scientific findings, a clear and universal legal framework, in respect for the sovereignty of states over their natural resources and economic activities. It is certainly important that national priorities and specificities of each state be taken into account, and special attention be given to the needs of developing and least developed countries. Work is currently underway to harmonize the post-2020 global biodiversity framework. Russian experts are engaged in this work as well. We believe that the framework should include concrete ideas and proposals for biodiversity protection, as well as help achieve global environmental rebalancing. I would like to conclude by expressing confidence that this meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Convention on Biodiversity will be helpful and fruitful, and, most importantly, conducive to meaningful cooperation between the states parties to the Convention. Thank you.
Thank
you, President Putin. Now let's invite His Excellency Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt. Your Excellency President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China, Your Excellency Secretary General Antonio Guterres of the UN, Your Excellency Executive Secretary Elizabeth Murema of the Convention on Biological Diversity, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you in the Leaders' Summit of COP15. On this occasion, I want to thank our friend China for its commitment to hosting this meeting, even with the impact of COVID-19 on multilateral endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're at a delicate moment in human history. This requires our joint efforts so as to address the even greater challenges brought by COVID-19. We're still grappling with the negative impact of the pandemic in different sectors. The Intergovernmental Science and Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services recently released a global assessment report on biodiversity, which has sounded the alarm, because global biodiversity is worsening rapidly in recent years. If countries do not take actions to change the way of consumption and production and make them more sustainable, if countries do not gain a better understanding of the significance of the protection of biodiversity and ecosystem security to our future, we will be faced with a global catastrophe. In light of this, Egypt has made relentless efforts. Since the Sharm el-Sheikh meeting in 2018, we have entered a new stage of collective cooperation with the aim of formulating a post-2020 global biodiversity framework and targets that are feasible and supported with clear implementation mechanisms. Over the past 2 years, despite the challenges brought by COVID-19, during its presidency, Egypt has achieved many concrete outcomes. We hope that the above-mentioned targets will be delivered to make up for the efforts lost in the past decade. Ladies and gentlemen, the past 2 years have shown that health is closely related with human beings and our surrounding ecology and environment. Therefore, Egypt has acted swiftly. In 2018, we launched an ambitious initiative calling on parties concerning the ecology and environment to take coordinated and synergized efforts to protect biodiversity, address climate change and its negative impact, and stem soil degradation and desertification. We believe that through joint efforts, this will contribute to human health and inclusive economic growth. Egypt is honored to hand over the presidency to our friend China. We believe that China has the ability to continue this important work, and our people all hope that this will contribute to the protection of biodiversity and the ecosystem. We look forward to continuing our collaboration with China and to work for realizing this goal in the following 2 years. We wish China all the best in its endeavor and achieve the convention targets to benefit our future generations. Thank you. Thank you, President Sisi. Now let's invite His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey.
Çin Halk Cumhuriyeti
President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi, Mr. Secretary General, distinguished participants, I extend my heartfelt greetings to you on behalf of myself and my nation. I would like to thank President Xi, my dear friend, for his kind invitation. I wish for the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to be auspicious. We, as humanity, are faced with challenges such as climate change, environmental disasters, pollution, water and food safety, and the loss of biodiversity. The recent natural disasters that occurred in various parts of the world and resulted in significant loss of life demonstrate the gravity of these issues. Natural disasters not only harm the environment and the ecosystem, but also pose a direct threat to human life and property. It is a well-known fact that everything in nature is interconnected in the same way as links in a chain are. The destruction of the biodiversity results in a polluted environment as well as scarcity of food and water. This situation causes conflicts and forces people to migrate. Environmental degradation is one of the reasons that turned the Mediterranean, the cradle of civilizations, into a refugee graveyard. Of course, those who bear the historical responsibilities for the emergence of issues that lead to climate change must be the first to take action in the face of this threat to our future. On the other hand, the struggle against climate change and environmental issues cannot be assigned to certain countries only. Regardless of their economic power, geographical location, or historical responsibility, all countries must take on responsibility. In this sense, the conference theme, Ecological Civilization, Building a Shared Future for All Life on Earth, is well chosen. With the philosophy of love the created for the creator's sake, Turkey is determined to preserve its rich biological diversity both on land and at sea. Our starting point in doing so is the recognition that all living beings, not just humans, have the right to life. We believe that the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, which is based on minimizing biodiversity loss by 2030, will duly serve that purpose. Turkey, which is located in 3 different climate zones and biogeographical regions that has forests, mountains, steppes, wetlands, coastal and marine habitats in their many forms and combinations. Of the 8 world centers of origin of plants, 3 of them intersect in Turkey. Anatolia is the homeland of wheat, lentil, chickpea, olive, apple, cherry, and hundreds of more plants too long to list. While there are approximately 12,000 plant species in the entire European continent, our country is home to 12,000 plant species, approximately 4,000 of which are endemic. Through our National Biodiversity Inventory and Monitoring Project, we have established an inventory of our biological diversity. Among the species identified in the inventory, 428 of them are local endemic, and 3,275 are endemic, and they all grow only in Turkey. Such a diverse biodiversity places specific responsibilities on our shoulders. To that purpose, we design and implement long-term and realistic strategies for the conservation of biodiversity as well as for ensuring its sustainability and economic integration. In accordance with the importance we attach to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, we will host the 16th Conference of the Parties next year and assume the Convention's presidency for the 2022 to 2024 term. During that period, we will take the lead in undertaking necessary actions for the conservation of biological diversity both at home and abroad. As I conclude my remarks, I would like to reiterate my hope for that fair, equitable, and conscientious solutions will be found to all global challenges we face. And I wish success to the summit.
Thank you, President Erdogan, for your remarks. Now let's invite President of the French Republic, His Excellency Emmanuel Macron. Your Excellency President Xi Jinping, Your Excellency Secretary General Guterres, Heads of State and Government, let me begin by thanking China for hosting this conference. Due to COVID-19, we have to meet both online and offline this time. The pandemic once again shows that our health, economic prosperity, and common security are closely linked with a sound natural environment. As long as we want to continue to live on Earth, we must stop destroying nature and live in harmony with it. Our generation must form synergy and respect nature. Specifically, we need to put nature at the core of our development model and continue to protect and restore the ecosystem. Though still affected by the pandemic, we have made much progress this year. At the global level, we have hosted 2 important meetings on biodiversity, which China was also actively involved. First, the One Planet Summit in Paris in January. Its initiatives have already produced results. For example, 4 partner countries and over 30 research institutes around the world have joined animal disease research programs to prevent occurrence of future communicable diseases. In addition, a Mediterranean program has attracted multiple parties as well. Second, the IUCN World Conservation Congress held in Marseille several weeks ago, which attracted the participation of governments, social groups, private sector, and research institutes. In Marseille Declaration, IUCN and its member states send a clear message to uphold the nature-centered solutions. The COP26 that will soon hold will also need to respond to this call and step up actions on biodiversity and climate change. In fact, science has proven to us that nature itself plays a decisive role in achieving carbon neutrality. More protection of biodiversity can help ease the impact of climate change on humanity. Mangroves, oceans, forests, and other unique ecosystems are our closest partners. They can absorb carbon emissions and reduce the impact of extreme weather. They are vital to humanity's future. Therefore, we need to set targets and take clear paths to achieve carbon neutrality while restoring the damaged ecosystem. For this to happen, France has made a host of initiatives, including Green Great Wall, to help the Sahel region respond to desertification, ecological destruction, food crisis, and rural employment problems. Half of the $18 billion commitment in January has already been delivered. Banning deforestation is vital to protecting the lung of Earth. France has decided not to import any goods coming from deforestation. Starting from 2030, this has been our consistent choice and our responsibility. We hope the EU will also make a similar commitment, and more countries will do so as well. Biodiversity is closely linked with climate change. This requires us to protect ocean, a common asset for humanity. Thanks to the UN support, France will host the One Ocean Summit in early 2022. Build consensus between public and private sectors, and put forward specific initiatives. These aspects are what France hopes the global biodiversity framework may cover. And they also reflect the 3 priority topics of this era. First, the health crisis makes us aware that humanity and nature are mutually dependent, and we need to advance One Health. Second, Natural protected areas are one of the bedrocks of biodiversity, and we hope all parties can work together to protect 30% of land and oceans on Earth. Thirdly, jointly protect nature and restore 30% of the damaged ecosystem. Such efforts require adequate funding support. We also need to ensure that all investment, both public and private, must be aligned with the targets set by the biodiversity framework, with protecting nature as the precondition. Central banks and development banks have done a lot to evaluate the impact of investment on biodiversity. I appreciate this. And I hope that existing funds, including GEF and GCF, can act to protect and sustainably manage biodiversity. I hope other countries and multilateral development banks will work with France to ensure that 30% of their climate funds are used to promote biodiversity. Only when all parties take this seriously and take actions, we may ensure the effective implementation of the biodiversity framework. I'd like to stress once again that when Earth is ill, humanity won't be healthy. I hope this COP15 held in China will adopt an ambitious biodiversity framework that meets expectations and help better tackle the challenges. Last but not least, I want to thank President Xi Jinping for his invitation and personal commitment. I look forward to physical meetings at the second part of the conference. Thank you. Thank you, President Macron. Now let's invite President of the Republic of Costa Rica, His Excellency Carlos Alvarado Quesada.
Thanking the Chinese government and the Secretariat of the Convention of Biological Diversity for the organization of this Leaders Summit high-level segment and the first session of COP15. This meeting comes at an extreme important time for our planet. We are facing a series of overlapping crises, and to address them, we must harness the tools and scientific advice that can guide us toward a better future for humanity. Right now, state parties and other stakeholders have an amazing opportunity to adopt an ambitious and transformative post-2020 global biodiversity framework, which will guide our actions to halt and reverse biodiversity loss and get us to achieve the 2050 vision to live in harmony with nature. Dear friends, I wish to take this opportunity to share with you the progress of the hack for nature and people. 2 years ago, Costa Rica listened to the science and launched an ambitious campaign to achieve a global goal of protecting at least 30% of the planet's land and ocean by 2030. In 2020, during the One Planet Summit, together with France and the United Kingdom, we officially launched the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, also known as HAC. Our efforts began with the support of only 6 countries, but today we have over 72 countries that have joined this initiative. If we work together and advance on getting more support, I am confident that we will be able to agree on this crucial target at the upcoming Biodiversity COP15. Last month, during the General Assembly, Costa Rica, together with other countries and partners, co-host the event on transformative action for nature and people, in which there was an unprecedented announcement. 9 philanthropic organizations launched the Protecting Our Planet Challenge and pledged $5 billion to protect and conserve 30% of the planet by 2030 by supporting protected areas and indigenous stewardship of their territories. This marks the largest ever philanthropic commitment to nature conservation. We are truly building momentum towards the COP15, but we need more. Nature needs more. As we are facing the devastating consequences of COVID-19, we must think beyond the present and put nature in the center of our economies. Economic studies have found that conserving 30% also makes sense financially. Moreover, the economic cost of inaction is far higher than action. A Cambridge report found that the economic benefits of protecting 30% of the planet outweigh the cost by a ratio of at least 5-to-1, and that after recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, the nature sector is projected to grow from 4 to 6% per year, compared to less than 1% in the agriculture, timber, and fishery sector. Protecting nature makes economic sense. On the other hand, it is vital to recognize the crucial role of indigenous peoples and local communities as central partners in all our efforts. 30% of all areas that are currently under formal protection and 30% of all remaining land areas with very low human intervention are traditionally owned, managed, used, or occupied by indigenous peoples. I wish to close by highlighting that we have a window of less than 9 years. We need to take bold action and transformational action. We need to tackle biodiversity loss by increasing our protected and conserved areas, also by sustainably using, restoring, and mainstreaming biodiversity. We will not only reverse the biodiversity loss, but it will be a win for climate change and a win for people and our economies as well. 55% of global GDP depends on high-functioning biodiversity and ecosystem services. If we want a successful economy and a successful future, and if we want to create jobs, restoring and conserving our land and ocean is critical. Scientists and economists have shown us all the evidence. We know that urgent action is crucial to shift our economies. Now is the time for action. I am honored to be a part of this important COP, as well as to the efforts to accelerate our actions together. Thank you very much.
感谢。
Thank you, President Alvarado. Now let's invite His Excellency Sadyr Japarov, President of the Kyrgyz Republic. Distinguished President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi Jinping. Distinguished Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres. Distinguished guests. I'm glad to greet all the participants of COP15 of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. I'm sincerely grateful to the distinguished President of the PRC, Mr. Xi Jinping, for his invitation to such an internationally significant event. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kyrgyz Republic is committed to the goal of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity and supports the hosting of its regular session in Kunming in order to solve topical issues of biodiversity preservation on our planet. It is very important that our meeting is taking place before the 26th Conference of the Parties of the UN Climate Change Convention. As climate change has become one of the reasons for flora and fauna destruction on Earth. COP26, parties will share views on climate change. For the 30 years, Kyrgyzstan remains an active promoter of mountain countries' interests on the international arena in order to solve the issues of sustainable development and climate change. In this regard, at the 26th UN General Assembly, I announced the initiative to declare the year 2022 as the International Mountain Year, adopt the 5-year program on sustainable development of mountain regions, and to convene in 2027 the Bishkek Plus 25 Global Summit. Distinguished delegates, each year, we're facing more negative influence of climate change on the ecosystem of the Great Tian Shan and Pamir. Kyrgyzstan are acting together with the interested parties and take real actions to protect mountain biodiversity. The international community has launched initiatives to protect snow leopard. In 2013 and 2017, Kyrgyzstan hosted the World Forums on Snow Leopard and its ecosystems preservation. Recently, the UN General Assembly have supported our initiative and adopted the resolution Nature No Snow Borders, in which the importance of multilateral cooperation for the effective implementation of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity is also mentioned. "15 types of mammals, 26 types of birds, 150 types of insects, and more than 30 types of invertebrates are under threat of extinction in Kyrgyzstan. Our country gives priority to the protection of special natural territories and the increase of mountain forests, which are home to many animals and plants from the Red Book of our country. In accordance with the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, we're planning to increase the area of protected natural territories. Also, we're in favor of the development and adoption of a special target program on mountain forests under the UN aegis. In this regard, I seek the support of UN member states and the Secretary General for this and the above-mentioned international initiatives of Kyrgyzstan. Distinguished delegates, human activities have impact on nature and biodiversity. The illegitimate business activities of certain foreign investors in Kyrgyzstan has caused the destruction of centuries-old glaciers and undermined the integrity and rich diversity of flora and fauna of our mountains and rivers. Together, we must counteract such unacceptable business. In conclusion, I want to mention that Kyrgyzstan is open and ready for active international cooperation. Only through joint efforts can we preserve the biodiversity of our planet and achieve desirable, sustainable development in harmony with the environment. Thank you. Thank you, President Japarov. Now let's invite Honorable James Marape, Prime Minister of the Independent State of Papua New Guinea.
His Excellency Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, heads of state and government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I convey warm South Pacific greetings from Papua New Guinea. Let me first of all thank the government of the People's Republic of China for giving me the opportunity to speak at this important forum and for also hosting COP15 in the beautiful city of Kunming. I am delighted to address this important occasion, given its significance in balancing our life on Earth amidst the many challenges upon our environment today. The theme, Ecological Civilization, building a shared future for all life on Earth, is relevant and timely to address. It is something Papua New Guinea is now keenly pursuing. Many of you might have been aware, conserving our country's biodiversity within a more sustainable development framework has been an issue I have been passionate about. In my very recent address to the 76th United Nations General Assembly on 24th of September, I spoke strongly on the conservation of Papua New Guinea's rainforest and the biodiversity. I've also spoken on other forums as well, on the need for preservation and conservation, especially in the face of the current climate change crisis we are facing as a global community. Let me begin by drawing our attention to the Pacific, or the Blue Pacific continent, where millions have lived for centuries in very close relationship with the environment, where we have and continue to draw our sustenance from the earth, including food, medicine, and resource that sustains our lives. In Papua New Guinea, we host 13% of world's rainforest and 6% of world's biodiversity. PNG's total land area is 46.17 million hectares, of which 40.53 million hectares are the eastern half of the main island of New Guinea, and 5.64 million hectares are the island provinces to the east. Papua New Guinea is covered in a verdant canopy of lush tropical rainforest. It has the most forested land cover in the world, with 71%, which is made up of 33 million hectares of diverse tropical lowland, montane rainforest, swamp forest, dry evergreen forest, and mangroves. This high proportion of forest cover gives our forests the significance and importance it deserves. Underneath and within this are plants and wildlife discovered and yet to be discovered. Papua New Guinea hosts the highest number of orchid species in the world at 3,000. PNG also houses up to 21,000 higher plants, especially the vascular plants such as ferns, 8,000 species of coral, 600 species of fish, over 250 species of mammals, and 760 species of birds. PNG also has an estimated 200,000 to 400,000 species of insects, most of which are yet to be described and classified. Let me continue putting you in the picture of how much we hold in my country. Our lowland tropical and subtropical forests have been ranked amongst the world's 10 most ecological distinctive forest regions. The mangrove forests of Papua New Guinea are also recognized as the most extensive and species-rich in the world. The tropical savanna woodlands are considered globally important because of their many endemic and restricted species, and our riverine ecosystems are recognized for their high fish endemism and other distinctive species that depend on the surrounding forest. Quite simply, Papua New Guinea is the last frontier. It is amongst the last places that to be discovered in the context of modernization. This means PNG has some of the world's last plants and wildlife, flora and fauna that will be lost forever if we do not engage in a conservation in a big way. I said this to the United Nations 2 weeks ago, and I say this again today. PNG stands at a very important crossroad, and as the chair of the Coalition of Rainforest Nations, Papua New Guinea is not only the net removal of carbon from the atmosphere, we are also the ecological hub of the world's biodiversity. But PNG is facing the challenges that come with development, the cost of development, as we all know. The change in the extent and condition in PNG's forests is occurring considerably faster than previously recorded. In 2001, PNG lost approximately 362,400 hectares of our forests to deforestation or degradation. It was estimated at that time in 2002 that 1.41% of the country's tropical forests were being deforested or degraded annually. The report predicted that if this trend continued, 83% of PNG's rainforests would be cleared and degraded by this year, 2021. Forests are being logged repeatedly and wastefully with little regard for forest ecology and ecosystem functions which reduce impact and enhance regeneration. In terms of biodiversity, the International Union for Conservation of Nature has listed as most threatened 38 species of mammals, 22 species of birds, 8 species of reptiles, and 26 species of invertebrates in Papua New Guinea. Unfortunately, this is not conclusive data. These estimates of diversity and status of our forests are based on limited knowledge resulting from limited conducted research. In 2019, when I took over government, we moved immediately into making a number of resource sector reforms. One of them was in the area of forestry, where I have ceased issuance of new timber permits and renewal of existing ones. We have also phased out the export of round logs and working towards a complete ban by the year 2025. We have also started some movement in the green energy space with partnerships with International Renewable Energy Agency and Fortescue Future Industries to develop our solar, hydro, and geothermal capacity. As an exporter of natural gas and oil, PNG is also working towards ensuring its carbon footprint is minimized through the implementation of its Sustainable Development Goal 13 Roadmap 2020 to 2030 on climate change, which was launched in 2020. These are some of the changes my government has started, but there is much more that can be done through partnerships and collaborations. PNG needs partners and responsible and like-minded individuals, corporate citizens, and governments who can assist us conserve these 13% of rainforest, these important lungs of the world, and this precious biodiversity that is contained in our country. To stay within the ambit of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we need global partnerships, whether as bilateral partners, industries, or corporations, to move into conservation in a big way. We are a developing country. We need to lift the standard of living for our largely subsistence-based population. Remains by far our biggest challenge as a nation. We need hospitals to cure our sick. We need roads to connect our people and their producers to the world and markets. Most importantly, we need our people to be economically independent, so all can be equitable in Papua New Guinea just as it is in many parts of the world. My country needs development financing in exchange for concentrated effort on conservation. And I would like to use the platform of this forum to invite partnerships for this most important and worthwhile cause. It is very important that we move into actioning some of these resolutions and agreements we have been making over the years and seeing more results, including a stronger global biodiversity framework. As I close, may I once again remind us of the great need to work together to save Earth, our only home and all life on it. Not just human life, but all life. As stewards and custodians of Earth, it is not just our responsibility, it is our calling to do so. We live in one planet, one atmospheric envelope, one interlinked environmental ecosystem. Hence, as one humanity, we must rise and unite to preserve our one planet, our one home. I wish the conference a very fruitful session. God bless each and every one of you.
感谢。
Thank you very much, Prime Marape. Now let's invite Prince of Wales of the UK, His Royal Highness Prince Charles.
I am most touched to have been asked by President Xi to deliver some opening remarks for this critical COP15 biodiversity conference. The pandemic the global community has been facing has shown us that human health, economic health, and planetary health are fundamentally interconnected. COP15 and COP26, therefore, represent unmissable opportunities to accelerate action in a more sustainable direction. As it happens, I have dedicated much of my life to the restoration of harmony between humanity, nature, and the environment. I've learned that for nearly every problem we face, nature, with the benefit of billions of years of evolution, has already provided us with solutions. Universal principles rooted in the harmony of nature's patterns, cycles, and geometry, which ancient civilizations and the world's indigenous peoples have known all too well, can in fact drive a sustainable future. We need only look to how the billions of microbes in the soil of a rainforest ensure billions of gallons of water fall every day, thousands of miles away, on farmland that would otherwise be desert. Of course, an intimate understanding of nature has underpinned Chinese civilization, craftsmanship, and philosophy for millennia. In this regard, I am extremely proud that my School of Traditional Arts has been running projects in various parts of China for the past decade, and that we now have a center in Suzhou where students discover, through the discipline of a craft, that beyond the surface of things lies a natural, universal order, and that they are a part of that natural order. Any successful response to biodiversity loss needs to work across the whole of our economies and societies. This is why, with my Sustainable Markets Initiative, a network of hundreds of global CEOs across all sectors launched the Terra Carta as a practical roadmap for nature, people, and the planet. I would like, if I may, to highlight 3 critical areas for action to help us move forward. First, putting nature at the heart of our economy. The well-being and livelihoods of future generations depend on us preserving the biodiversity that still exists. That is why rapidly protecting at least 30% of our planet's natural ecosystems on land and in the oceans by 2030 is absolutely critical. So too is addressing the overwhelming burden that a growing global population places on nature and its ability to sustain us. The Dasgupta review on the economics of biodiversity points out that just like human capital and produced capital, nurturing and growing natural capital is increasingly becoming a central pillar of global economic decision-making. We need, above all, to remember that nature's own economy provides services to our global economy that are worth around $125 trillion a year, while also helping ensure the supply of fresh air, clean water, food, energy, medicines, and much more. Building conservation and nature-based solutions into our asset base and supply chains, at home and abroad, fuels restoration efforts and offers significant economic growth and employment opportunities. Consider the recent pain-free medical injection needles inspired by mosquitoes, turbine blades that mimic the flippers of humpback whales, and robotic arms inspired by elephant trunks. Putting a value on nature, improving transparency, and making natural capital an investment theme will help to unlock the trillions of dollars in assets available from the private sector. Second, adopting a polluter pays principle. To accelerate our efforts further, properly pricing carbon would immediately catalyze the green economy while supercharging climate and biodiversity outcomes. At the same time, supporting governments in their work to reorientate perverse economic subsidies, financial incentives and regulations from those that do harm to those that do good would have a transformative effect on our market systems. In this regard, I would like to applaud the recent commitments by many world leaders to end the investment in coal-fired power stations. As a critical step, and as we rapidly scale up renewables and hydrogen, it is essential that in the meantime, we deploy the latest carbon capture, use and storage technology in order to help us buy precious time by capturing harmful emissions until a full transition is possible. Third, and finally, rethinking our land, food and health systems. Transforming the forestry and land use sectors towards more sustainable practices helps to address both the climate and biodiversity crises and could contribute an estimated 30% of the global mitigation needed in 2050 to deliver the 1.5 degrees target. For example, regenerative agriculture, including practices such as organic and no-till farming to restore soil fertility, could enable agriculture to play a critical role in addressing climate change, revitalizing rural communities, and enhancing human health. In fact, the transition to sustainable land use can help raise the next 1.5 billion people out of poverty and represents a significant global investment opportunity. However, this will require global agri-industrial corporations to revise their operating models in a way that benefits biodiversity regeneration and small-scale farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a humbling realization that everything we need to survive, the food we eat, the water we drink, the oxygen we breathe, depends on the work of other species and the ecosystems they create. Yet, we continue blithely to wipe out species that hold the secrets to so many innovative and sustainable products for the future. We seem intent on testing our unique world to destruction. But, as Chinese culture has long understood, our interrelationship with nature is critical for our own health and that of everything around us. When we protect lands and ocean, we in fact protect ourselves. Nature bounces back, bringing with her all the benefits on which life depends. This is why the 30 by 30 target is so critical. Time, I'm afraid, is not on our side, so I can only urge you to take the bold decisions that can regenerate hundreds of millions, if not billions, of hectares of degraded land throughout the world, thus protecting and restoring our planet's biodiversity and making nature the engine of our economies. Let us transformative action on the ground and make COP15 and COP26 the game changers the world so desperately needs.
Thank you, Prince Charles. Now let's invite His Excellency Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are losing our suicidal war against nature. Our 2-century-long experiment with burning fossil fuels, destroying forests, wilderness and oceans, and degrading the land has caused the biosphere catastrophe. Humanity's reckless interference with nature will leave a permanent record, just as today's scientists study the traces of previous extinctions. We are well into the Anthropocene extinction. The rate of species loss is tens to hundreds of times higher than the average of the past 10 million years and accelerating. Over 1 million species of plants, mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and invertebrates are at risk, many within decades. Damage to the complex web of life that sustains us has already impacted the lives and livelihoods of millions, contributing to hunger, sickness, and unemployment. Indigenous peoples and other vulnerable groups are among the worst affected. Ecosystem collapse could cost almost $3 trillion annually by 2030. Its greatest impact will be on some of the poorest and most highly indebted countries. I thank China for convening and hosting this meeting and for promoting the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. COP15 is our chance to call a ceasefire. Together with COP26 on climate, it should lay the foundations for a permanent peace agreement. By 2030, we must reverse our trajectory and start to build the world we want. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, an ambitious and effective post-2020 global biodiversity framework with clear targets and benchmarks can put nature and people back on track. This framework should work in synergy with the Paris Agreement on climate change and other multilateral agreements on forests, desertification and oceans. We need bold actions in 5 areas. First, the post-2020 framework must support the legal right of all people everywhere to a healthy environment, including the rights of indigenous peoples who are stewards of biodiversity. Second, it must support national policies and programs that tackle the drivers of biodiversity loss, especially unsustainable consumption and production. Third, it must work to transform national and global accounting systems so they reflect the true cost of economic activities, including their impact on nature and our climate. Fourth, Delivering the post-2020 framework will require a package of support to developing countries, including significant financial resources and technology transfer. And fifth, it must end perverse subsidies, including to agriculture, that make it profitable to attack nature and pollute our environment. These funds should be redirected into repairing the damage that has been done. Action in these 5 areas will go far beyond biodiversity. It will contribute across the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to climate action, health, clean water and clean air, and ending poverty and hunger. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, young people stand to lose most from the devastation of natural environments and the loss of species. They are crying out for change, and they are mobilizing for a sustainable future for all. They and we are counting on you. I urge you to be bold and ambitious for our future and the future of all generations to come. Thank you. 谢谢。
感谢古特雷斯阁下的致辞。下面有请黄润秋部长继续主持会议。
May I give the floor to Minister Huang Runqiu? Thank you, President Xi Jinping, Vice Premier Han Zheng, state leaders, and UN Secretary General for your extraordinary remarks. Your remarks have set the course for global biodiversity governance and boosted global confidence to contain biodiversity loss. As has been noted in President Xi Jinping's keynote speech, let us strengthen solidarity to overcome difficulties and join hands in building a community of all life on earth. Now, I declare the end of the Leaders' Summit. We will have a recess of half an hour.